Okay, friends, welcome back to another Tim Kirby Russia live stream, somewhat daytime edition. We just talked about North Korea, but now we're going to talk about what I think is, it's dismaying, not because I think it'll affect Russia, but because it is going to be another tragedy that it's like the real, I think, horror is when you can see when something awful is going to happen on a grand scale, and just with time it marches towards you. And it's kind of like maybe like an asteroid, you know what I mean? If you can move an asteroid when it's far enough away, even just 1 degree, over time it'll miss your planet. But the question is, how do you move an asteroid? And that's kind of the feeling I'm getting of I'm looking at this asteroid coming right at me, and it's like I want to move it, but I can't. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to hearing in the news, the side stream alternative media in English and in Russian, that Zelensky, the guy who's now the head of the Ukrainian armed forces, is going to enact a counteroffensive again soon. Well, I have to remember that the last counteroffensive was really the thing that I think ultimately Dan wanted to talk. Anyways, calls and questions. Write your questions anywhere on Tim Kirby Rush Hardcore on Telegram. If you're watching this on YouTube, it was too late. We're already done with Telegram. But if you're on Telegram watching this live, write any question you want or comment on anything on Tim Kirby Rush Hardcore, and I will see it. If you want to call in, that'll be at the end of the program. But call-ins can be about kind of anything. But anyways, so we are talking about this counteroffensive that's going to be led by Zelensky. And again, a year ago, what did we see? We saw all these horrific, and again, it's horrific because, guys, we have to remember that there's this entity called God in heaven, and we have to try to not give in to our tribalism, not feel glee or joy when you see the other side getting its legs and arms blown off and squirming around on the ground. Obviously, we can all succumb to that emotion from time to time, but we shouldn't. Okay, so last summer we all watched, hopefully in horror, as the entire Ukrainian army was sent to the slaughter. No air support, no real major artillery support. Moving in tank columns across an open field filled with mines towards the Russian lines. And you remember the result of that. I don't quite know the exact numbers because we get in these numbers debates. But if you think about the real bulk of the casualties, that was kind of their Stalingrad. If they've lost over 500,000 people now, I wouldn't be surprised if that last summer offensive killed half of them. So we're looking at tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of guys sent in a World War I-like slaughter into the guns. As they remember, the columns of tanks were going and going and going. One gets blown up. The other drives around it. It gets blown up. The artillery notices them, blows up the rest of them. Smoking bodies and smoking tanks. And what was achieved? They took, for all that, they didn't punch through the Russian lines, and they took the village of Rabotina. So the critical piece, the key piece of the puzzle, Rabotina. Hundreds of thousands of lives spent to take a village that the Russians took back with, I think, like 2,000 guys a few months later. So they're going to repeat that. And it's going to be the same slaughterhouse. It is coming. It is going to be exactly the same. But this time it is going to be in the north. So the original counteroffensive, the concept was, and again, the real madness of this is unbelievable, was they said, guys, I don't know about in the English language media, but in the Russian language media, they literally said that the Ukrainian plan is to, in summer, try to push their way to the Crimea, dividing the Russian forces in two. So sort of like driving through the forces, cutting off the Kherson and Zaporozhye kind of regions from the Donbass regions, and just break through and push in the Crimea and separate the Russian forces. That was their mission, and they stated that well in advance, and they tried to do exactly that, which is mental. Absolutely mental. I mean, imagine if you were, again, I relate a lot of things to American football because it is quite a battle of wills. And just imagine, there's two teams, in the Super Bowl. One team seems to be clearly superior, but the other team, hey, they somehow got to the Super Bowl. They seem to have pretty decent chances. But the team that is not the favorite, they reveal their entire playbook and they tell the other team all their plays in advance. You can't win doing that. And again, it's madness. And this is it. The madness, guys. This is why I'm just talking about this, because it's stunning. It is absolutely stunning that they are going to do the same thing, but this time in the north. Because you remember the Russian forces, about 2 months ago, was it, pushed down towards Kharkov. The theoretical explanation, it was to push at least 10 kilometers, which sounds like not very much to me, towards Kharkov, which was only 40 kilometers from the border anyway, so maybe it is a lot. Push towards Kharkov so that way the Ukrainian artillery would have less ability to bomb and kill people in and around Belgorod. Okay, so that was the concept. So now, again, this is the madness that they've already signaled to the Russians well in advance that that's where they're going to push. And so it raises a lot of questions. Well, in a comment. The first comment, this is going to be another tragedy. This is going to be another, like, you know, the kind of humor there was in Starship Troopers, if you're familiar, or if any of you played Helldivers 2, fantastic video game. That's sort of like satire about war and how the powers that be have absolutely no value. They don't value the human lives of the average soldiers and all that. It is that. It is like full Monty Python satirical level what they're going to do. Because for the original mega counteroffensive, you know, they actually had a lot of tanks and all that. What do they have left is kind of the question, especially in terms of manpower. These guys aren't, again, how trained are they? How many actual machines are they going to have? If for the first one they didn't have air power or real cover, are they going to have it for this one? Probably not. And they're going to go right into the Russian guns and the Russian defensive lines. It's going to be exactly the same thing. But anyways, the real question then leads to, well, if they do this, if they mass for an offensive in the north to push the Russians back so they can keep killing civilians in Belgorod. Because really, if you think about it, that would be the sort of mission. Obviously, you could say, well, they want to get the Russians off of their sacred territory that has always been Ukraine for thousands of years, because that's what it says on my White House press release. So maybe that's it. But ultimately, again, dark ironies of war, Monty Python humor here. You know, the real objective is to push the Russians back, and then I guess just keep shooting Belgorod. Because you have to remember, what do we hear from the Ukrainian side constantly? That they need more ammunition, more shells. The Russians produce way more, 10-to-1 ammunition production. The Russian missiles are better. And then what do they use the ammunition for? Shell civilians in the Donbass, shell civilians around Belgorod. Absolute madness. You know, just we're living through satirical times or something. I don't know. But anyways, not only is this going to fail, but it's going to kill a lot of their guys. Oh, what was I trying to say? The whole thing that's really interesting is, if they really commit to this offensive, and they're going to stack the overwhelming majority of what they have left there, doesn't that just kind of open up something? That has to open up some major gap, unless they can convince baby Jupiter, Macron, to like send the French army to do this charge for them, which would be amazing. Again, theater of the absurd. This whole thing, I think they've kind of given up on that, but just for the sake of madness, wouldn't it be insane to have a 20,000 man French army actually be sent to Ukraine? Like, just absolutely bizarre. But anyways, baby Jupiter probably won't be participating in this, nor will his men. We talked recently about the supposed leak that might not have really been a leak in Poland, that they want to call up 200,000 reservists. So I hope, especially for the sake of my one cousin, that he doesn't get called up for this insanity. So maybe the Poles will be forced to do this. But again, about maybe when the war's going to end. If they do this, it's going to open some huge hole somewhere, because they don't have the guys. If they pull that many forces, let's say 100,000 guys to go in there, how many others do they have left? I think it's just going to be sort of like, you know, like I mentioned, this war at this point, it's kind of like an MMA fight where the one guy is down and he's kind of got his hands like this. But in MMA, you know, okay, his hands are like this. Well, I'm going to come around the guard. You know, that's the wrong way. Sorry, around the guard, you know, or I'm going to come up through the guard. You know, just because your hands are here doesn't mean you're going to block everything that hits your head or hit him in the stomach. Or to be honest, in MMA, I don't know, you could really even just kind of pound someone in the knee, I think, or the shin. Getting kicked in the shin hurts, you know. So there's a lot you can do to someone despite the fact that they're blocking. And I think Ukraine's block, because they have less and less men, their ability to block is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and smaller and smaller. And if they really try to do this insane counteroffensive that they're supposedly going to do in the very near future, that is literally going to be like going into an MMA fight and only specifically blocking your face and nothing else, because they're not going to be able to cover the rest. So this is true madness, guys. And I don't, again, like I said, I don't mean to say this like, oh, Russia's so awesome, they're such idiots, ha ha ha, let's have an orgasm from tribalism, oh, we're good, they're bad. No. This is a true tragedy, because from the Russian perspective, these either, people who are essentially, press ganged into fighting who don't want to be there, or were manipulated through propaganda. Essentially, they are kind of like either enslaved or zombified Slavic people, just like us here, are being sent to their deaths. And, it's not funny. Although I do use humor as a crutch a lot of the time. I am from Cleveland. I can't help it. But still, this is just a living frickin' nightmare. And as soon as I saw that piece of information, I was like, we're going to do a live stream on it, because this is absolute madness. And it could be really the sort of final, one of the final battles of this war, because what are they going to have left? What are they going to have left? And another thing to point out, as we've talked about on this channel before, but again, like I say, considering this channel doesn't have the best views of things in the political realm, I don't expect people to have watched every episode of this. But we have to remember that for some reason in the North, they were either unable to, or due to corruption, or due to some mishap, the Ukrainians actually didn't really build any fortifications. Their really high-quality, massive fortifications were all focused on the Donbass, and in the North, they have basically nothing. And the Russians are aware, and they can see, because they're using mostly civilian, like excavators and bulldozers and all that, to try to haphazardly, really quickly build defenses in the North. And there's a lot of video of, again, the real tragedy of this, of these civilians being kind of forced to dig trenches with their construction equipment, and they're getting hit by drones. And, of course, friends, drones can take out tanks. They can, and if you think they can take out tanks, they can definitely take out a Bobcat or a JCB excavator. The person operating it, they're absolutely effed. They have zero chance of survival. And so I mentioned that because the North is going to be way less defended, and way less trenches, way less places to hide. So again, this is going to be something else. This is going to be one of those things where, in the future of video games, perhaps the previous counteroffensive, and maybe this one, is going to be something that's going to be in video games. I'll put it that way. It's going to be one of those. Okay, let's see if we have any comments. I think I've kind of said my piece on this issue. Again, it's a tragedy that is just moving towards us, and I can see it moving right at me. Like I said, like a meteor. But it's beyond my power to move it. And that's what's really sad. That's really, really sad. Anyways, El Punt continues. Washington has lost their marbles. Yes. Well, I wouldn't say they've lost their marbles. I think they've more or less, they've really lost their sense of priorities, because their priorities are global hegemonic empire and, they're living in the dreams of Klaus Schwab or whatever. They're in their Great Reset universe and thinking in those terms. And, because you remember, one of the other problems that people don't seem to understand is, like, when you're dealing with people who are true globalists, and not just people who are like, I kind of consider myself an international citizen. I like everybody. Not that. I mean, you're Schwab, you're Soros, you're this kind of person, like you're true globalists. They hate humanity. Like, they, if they understood how screwed they'll be, by the fall of the United States, maybe they wouldn't think this way, but I don't think they can even perceive that they could possibly ever not be in power. And so they're having a good old time. Hey, people are dying. As long as Slavic people die, whoa. Christians are dying, double whoa, as in Russians say, whoa. So they're thrilled. I think Washington is, in a lot of ways acting very sane. It's just that globalism itself is mad from our perspective. So let's say Ukraine only goes for PR stunts, and it's gross. Yes, the loss of human life to achieve PR objectives is pure evil. It is, I was going to say, is this the greatest evil we've seen in our lifetimes? Maybe. It's definitely top 3. That's a... we'll have to do it. After all these years of working on the radio and doing podcasts from home, like I talk to myself, I'm getting to become a little bit of one of those puker radio guys. And I can even hear myself in my mind saying, like, top 3 greatest tragedies of our lifetimes. Number 3, Ukrainian counteroffensive, summer 2023. Absolutely. So yeah, I don't know, you guys can tell me, what do you think are the top 3 tragedies of humanity? The bronze medal goes to, whoa. So anyways, if you want to chime in on that, I'd be happy to hear your opinions. But anyways, Stephen B., this was posted earlier today from Lancaster. I guess it's always possible that it happened. Have you heard anything about this? Okay, quote, breaking reports circulating of an attack deep inside Russia with USA weapons. Information was received that the Ukrainian armed forces attacked Rostov with of TACMs. I haven't heard about that, but yeah, they've been able to launch a lot of rockets into Russia, but a lot of them get shot down. In fact, the vast majority. So, no, dude, this is Stephen. This is not anything new. This is war. And no anti-missile defense system can stop all the missiles. So, yeah, this is going to continue until this war gets ended for good. Or something weird or special happens that changes the nature of it. But, unfortunately, yeah, that is the case there. So, yeah. Anyways, let's see. Is that all for the questions? Oh my gosh, I guess that's all for the questions. Did someone want to call in? Or was that a lie? Was it a lie? Anyways, okay. I'm not seeing anyone want to call in. So guys, then, I guess I'll wait. We'll do last rounds. If people want to ask questions, you can go off topic or call in. So anyways, I just wanted to bring this topic up because, again, what is the point of these channels? Like, I don't want to ever have this channel become this, like, big cheerleader thing of like, Russia good, the West is bad, and especially the West is inherently bad, not bad at behaving badly now. That's a big difference. I don't want to do that, so I'm not coming on here to say, oh, this is awesome, the Russians are just gonna kill them. Well, remember, like I just said, the them are Russians that Russians believe have been duped or enslaved. So this is going to be a nightmare, and of course, if their chances were not good to survive in the last counteroffensive or achieve their objectives, this is going to be even worse, because the Russians, again, they have told them exactly what they're going to do, and they're going to do it without air support and artillery and all this. It's just going to be a massacre. It is going to be a Hollywood movie style slaughter. Yeah. Anyways, I guess we have a couple last questions. El Punt, what if the left and right were wrong? Well, that's from my channel. Unfortunately, guys, I kind of wanted to initially to do this channel to sort of be a little bit more ideological. We have our series on Eurasian ideas, but I never really completed that. I kind of wanted to get into this more idea mill, make this into more of a think tank, but it's kind of become more about news from Russia. So maybe one day. But that is, I think, on the YouTube banner, I think it actually poses the question, what if the left and right are both wrong? So, yeah, that's kind of one thing we get into, especially when you live in Russia and you get into the whole, like, Eurasianism and multipolarity and all these sort of ideas that are going in Russia. You can definitely start to see the world outside of this left and right paradigm. I kind of merged all 3 words into one word, out of the left and right paradigm. There we go. Okay, there we go. Pronunciation is important, children. What's that guy's name? The comedian. Uncle Roger says this. It's very important, children. Uncle Roger. Anyways, these fab bombs are going to turn thousands into jello. Well, yeah, that's another thing. The evolving, the evolution, excuse me, the evolution of these fab or FAB or whatever you want to call them bombs seems to be developing really quickly, and boy, do they have a long spread. I would also say this is a weapon that I finally heard the proper English translation, the thermobaric bombs that Russia has. I was recently in a conversation with someone who's more in the know about these military things, and that is a truly terrifying weapon. It doesn't even really have to hit you to essentially destroy your brain. Just anything within a certain radius, hit, not hit, just the shockwave and heat of it just destroys your brain. It's just a 100% death circle. It is, something like out of like a Warhammer 40,000 game. Then again, in Warhammer, if you roll a 1 to wound, you survive. So no, it's even worse than Warhammer. There are no ones to save you. It just, if you're in the radius, you die. And that's it. Unbelievable. Yeah. And it's also another reason why in the multipolar world, we are all going to, and when there's no more global hegemon, we're all going to have to wake up. And when this, as these processes develop, we're all going to have to sort of establish a new, let's just say, understanding of how the world works. We have our many poles. Between them are some kind of like buffer states. And guys, as we go farther and into the future, we're going to have to do everything we can to make sure that we have enough economic and other ties that we can't start wars. Ron Paul said the real path to world peace is inter-economic dependence. I think is the way he put it, or something like that, or trade. Maybe he just said trade because it's more libertarian. Dependence sounds bad to them, but whatever. A lot of interdependence and economic interaction definitely makes it hard to fight. And the exception to this rule is Washington, because they're in the globalist paradigm where you have to crush every potential rival. In the multipolar paradigm, I think we can all learn to be happy with having a significant portion of the planet being part of our pole and internally developing within it. As Professor Alexander Dugin himself said, that in the multipolar world, each pole will have its own absolute. So that's how he phrased it. But anyways, yes, I guess that's it. And surprisingly, no call sort of live streams. Unbelievable. Okay, guys, so then I'm going to vanish. I hope I was recording this. I am. Fantastic. I just looked on the other monitor. So anyways, Tim Kirby Russia signing out. Thank you very much for being with me, and stay tuned for the next episode.